guys, it's Emma, and I'm back today for you with another video. Today we are doing a rant review which covers The Changeling by LaValle. The Changeling is about a man named Apollo Kagwa and his wife Emma Valentine, and they're both married and they've both just had their first baby, a boy named Brian. But soon Emma starts acting very strangely and then commits a horrific act of violence and vanishes. And so in order to find Emma and his baby, Apollo goes on this journey in order to find them. And wow. First of all, there are a lot of trigger warnings, okay, because this does deal with a lot of adult topics. So the trigger warnings are as follows by me: alcoholism, murder, birth, so gore and bodily fluids. If birth kind of freaks you out, you know, it's just for a small part, but it is in this book, all right? If you're like me and any single thing that you learn about pregnancy or birth makes you just want to crush up some birth control pills and just, you know. Mentions of war, PTSD, suicide, murder-suicide, postpartum depression, suicide ideation, racism, mass killing, and body horror, I guess. So that's that. I was very disappointed with this book, I'm not gonna lie. It was just a nosedive, right? If you've seen my rant review for The Majesties or for Ninth House, then you'll know that happens a lot with me. So this video is just going to be chock full of spoilers, okay? So if you haven't read this book and you're still interested in it, I probably wouldn't watch this video unless you're one of the bold and the fearless. In that case, stay tuned. But we are going to be talking about just why I don't like this book as much as I do, okay? But before we get into the video, I would like to know, have y'all read this? Do y'all agree with what I'm going to talk about in the video? And, you know, if you do, tell me why. If you don't, tell me why, right? But with that being said, let's get right into it. Okay, so basically my whole thing with this book is the writing. Not the grammar, not the punctuation, not the syntax, whatever that is. No, just like the plot holes and the characters and like the complexities of the writing itself, I guess. So first thing we're going to talk about is just the fluidity between the different parts in this book, okay? Because this book is chopped up into at least 3 different parts, all right? And quite honestly, it felt like 3 rough drafts of 3 different stories mashed together, and they just don't correlate between one another. They just don't, all right? And the fact that this is under magical realism, I think I summarized this first point in my unhaul video, if you haven't seen that. This book is under magical realism, all right? And I guess so for the second part, but the first part, there's little to no magic in it, all right, whatsoever. But then we get to the second part, and then all of a sudden, it's a damned supernatural episode, all right? But the continuity was just jarring. There really was no continuity in this regard. So yeah, that just confused the hell out of me, all right? It felt like 2 or 3 or more different stories altogether, and it just felt like he bit off more than he could chew. The plot holes. Characters were just completely destroyed, all right? They acted completely out of character. Like, for example, Apollo everywhere else acted like Apollo, but then Apollo, when they got to the island of like all those women, which I'm guessing not all of them were witches, it wasn't even really that well explained, all right, which we'll get to later on. But when Apollo's on the island, he just acts so drastically different than he does in the rest of the book, and it doesn't really make any sense. And that type of character in continuity happens again with, like, I guess what is supposed to be one of the minor villains, all right, William Wheeler, if that's even what his real freaking name is, all right? But William on the island and him being, you know, discovered as a villain in and of himself, you know, his whole psychotic breakdown, all right, that is never mentioned again, and the likeness of it is never portrayed ever again when we see him. All right, William Wheeler on the island, when he has that breakdown, is not the same Wheeler we meet at the, like, basically when Apollo and Emma murk him. All right, that I was like, these were two different characters, basically. All right, character arcs were either thrown out or just completely changed. All right, and it felt like, you know, what were you trying to do with this character? All right, because William Wheeler having that breakdown on the island, it honestly could have never happened. What caused the breakdown? Because now the breakdown just seems so out of left field, I guess. So the characters in here are kind of sporadic in just their arc. And the major thing with the plot holes that I found was that it connected dots to like make explanations that, in my opinion, and now maybe I'm stupid, maybe I'm dumb, maybe I'm slow, maybe I'm dense, maybe I'm obtuse, all right? And if I am, I admit that, I accept that, I carry that. However, this book connected dots that I didn't even see, and it just kind of was like, yeah, this is the answer to that monumental question you had, and you're supposed to just go along with it. Like, for example, apparently, according to Apollo, William was the one that stole Brian, right? Which, okay, I don't know how you got there, but I guess since the character has made that assumption, which, you know, apparently rang out to be true in the end, sure. All right, I'll go with that. It was just little plot holes like that, and there's many, many, many more. All right, but the plot holes in just the connecting the dots wildly, and then the character arcs are just, they were infuriating for me. Now I want to talk about the monsters, all right? Because yes, I did pick this up because I heard that it was a creature feature, all right? And I like creature features. So I picked this up because it was supposed to be a creature feature, and it was. It featured 3 different creatures, and the ones that it did introduce were witches, trolls, and changelings, like the title suggests. But my thing is, first of all, how are you going to more accurately explain and more in-depth explain the 2 other monsters, but not your titular monster? All right, and even the witches weren't very well explained. All right, I feel like it would have been such a cool aspect of the story to follow, just the women on the island in general, all right? Because I don't even know whether they're all witches. I don't know whether they all have witchy powers. I don't know whether Cal was just the witch. It was just a whole thing of, you explained it a little bit, and even that was more than what you explained of the titular monster, all right? And it was just annoying, to say the least. And what was even more annoying was the climax of the story, all right? Because basically, the rundown of it is people's babies have been being stolen, right? As we all know of the Changeling myths. But it's due to this troll. And this troll came to America from Norway because these Norwegian settlers were going across the Atlantic Ocean, and this dude who was going along with them and bringing his wife and ex-wife, he was looking at the boat and being like, no ma'am, that boat is not gonna float. All right, so he conscripted this monster to be like, hey, can you like help us get across the ocean safely? And the monster was like, all right, cool, but you need to do something for me in return. And so the settlers get across the ocean, they settle in Queens, yada yada yada, little Norway, whatever. But the rest of the bargain was that in exchange for the troll getting the settlers across the ocean safely, the husband would have to basically serve the troll for the rest of his life and appease it, and basically all of his sons downwards. So the troll was like, okay, well, I need a baby for the direct appeasement, right? I need to be appeased. And the father was like, okay, cool, here's my newborn daughter.
Okay, work.
So this entire family's line of men have been serving this troll and stealing babies and basically replacing them with the troll's offspring, because for whatever reason the troll just can't raise its own offspring. They basically give the human baby to the troll in order for the troll to try and raise it, and when it fails, it eats the baby and then is like, okay, I need a new baby to try and start over. Right, so that's what the whole thing boils down to. William Wheeler is one of the men in the line from that settler ancestor, and he stole the Kagwa's baby in order to give it to the troll to raise, and that's the whole thing. So, you're telling me that this climax, this whole book, this 431 page book, boiled down to a troll needing more and more children because it was a bad parent?
The level of unprofessionalism, far too much.
Are you kidding me? That's what this boiled down to? I remember putting the book down and immediately calling my friend. I was like, hey girl, you'll never guess what this book just tried to sell me, okay? The whole thing with its children. The changelings are the troll's offspring, and the men switch the real babies with the troll offspring and, make it look like the actual baby. You may be wondering, why can't it take care of its own children? Apollo did in fact ask this question, and one of the men was like, oh, those old things, they're too ugly to love. First of all, that's the explanation we get. That's why you steal other people's babies? That's what that explanation is? You're high-fiving God with that reach if you think I'm gonna believe that. Even if that's not the actual reason why it won't raise its own children or why it can't, right? Because if it can't, I don't understand why it can't. All right, because when Apollo finds the changeling that took the place of his son, it sucks the blood from his finger, right? So I'm guessing it gains sustenance from blood. And the troll is a carnivore. So why doesn't the troll just give its offspring the blood of the prey that it catches? And that's even if it can raise its children, all right? Nothing says about it not wanting to raise its children, all right? The only explanation that we are given for this troll not raising its own children is because they're too ugly.
Not this.
No, ma'am. I'm sorry. What? I feel duped. I feel betrayed. And then lastly, this book was just so drawn out. All right? I mean, I said it was 431 pages. That's fine. That's fine for a book to be that long. But you have to be as engaging, as exciting, as entertaining in order for it to be 431 pages long or longer, all right? But this book gave out the tiniest bits of clues, too sparsely spread out, all right? And the only way that I can accurately describe this is by using one of my favorite books of all time, the Book of M, right? In the Book of M, you are given clue by clue by clue by clue. Clue A, clue B, clue C, clue D, with either the same amount of time in between or a little bit more or a little bit less in between finding out clue A, clue B, clue C, clue D, clue E, etc. Because you're trying to find out from the beginning to the end why people are losing their shadows, right? And you're finding out interesting stuff all the way through, and interesting stuff happens all the way through. But with this book, you are given clue 1, clue 1.5, clue 2, clue 2.25, clue 2.75, clue 3, and it is so irregular, it is so drawn out, it was boring, all right? This book is not entertaining enough, it is not exciting enough, it is not enthralling enough for it to be as long as it is. And I think that branches from the fact that it feels like it's at least three different stories mashed together. And maybe the author didn't do that on purpose, which a lot of times that happens, and I understand that. I didn't like it. All right, it led me for a loop. I gave The Changeling by Victor LaValle 1 star. All right, I'm not going to lie. I was going through it, I was having a great time, and then it just went down, 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 and guess what? More down, all right, as I kept going. And I don't get angry while reading books a lot, but this book, just like with The Majesties, I was fed up. I was fed up by the time I got to the ending that I was pushing myself. I was pushing my brain to read word by word and then letter by letter in order to finish this book and get it out of the way. I spent 15 or so days reading this book, and I won't ever get those days back. All right, so if you are still interested in reading The Changeling, by all means, please do it. But everything that I've said is what I think of it and why I don't like it. So you guys, that was my rant review for The Changeling by Victor LaValle. I hope you enjoyed. Like I said in the ending comments, I, hope that if you do still want to read The Changeling, by all means, please do. I hope you have a better reading experience than I did. I always hope for that at the end of every rant review, that if you still want to read the book I'm ranting about, you have a better reading experience than I do. I just happen to have a really bad reading experience with The Changeling, and hopefully that doesn't happen at least for a while, all right? Because I'm being hit one after another with books that I'm just not having a jolly good time with, okay? But with that being said, I hope you enjoyed. I hope y'all are staying safe, that you'll tune into the next video, and that you guys have a good rest of your day. Goodbye.